Folks, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show. Consistently stretching the lineage of music. I get a chance to sit down with an offspring of...
I could even put my feet up.
Yeah, you can put your feet right up there. Samson Grisman, welcome to the Jake Feinberg Show.
Thanks for having me, Jake.
It's an honor, my man. When I talked to you last, I talked to your father last, you were turning down gigs. I mean, were these gigs, how do you consider yourself at this point in your musical career? Where do you see yourself at?
I'm still learning. We're all still learning. And I love to work, so I'm shocked that he told you that I was turning down.
Well, that's because you're on your honeymoon. But I guess what I'm saying is what gigs?
To the top of the show. 15 minutes. Thank you.
Intergalactic.
Oh wow, 15 minutes till the top of the show.
How passionate are you about playing burning music on the bandstand all the time, or is it just a matter of saying, I gotta support myself. I gotta take any gig I can get.
Well, as a professional musician, there's always some element of both. But I love to play music. I would be just as happy playing music with my friends in my living room as I would be, on the road playing music. But as is the necessity, we have to make money. So I dig playing gigs too.
Right. Can you talk a little bit about how you fit into the Nashville scene? I've interviewed Kenny Malone's a great drummer down there.
He's on so many of my favorite records.
You know what I'm saying?
Such a sweetheart.
And there's another cat, and a bass player, dude. Such a badass. It'll come.
What? Dennis Crouch?
There's a couple cats.
Mike Bub?
Yeah, not
Victor Krause?
This is an old school guy. I'll think of it.
Bob Moore? How old school?
Old. It'll come.
Joe Zinkin? He would have passed.
That's pretty much.
Bob Moore is, he was the A-team guy for years and years in Nashville, and he's still around. Salty, white bearded gentleman?
Joe something.
It wasn't Joe Zinkin?
No. Kenny Malone, if you're tuning in, please help us solve this. It'll come to me. But I just want to know how you assimilated to that culture. You're from the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Like you were marinating out there in your world, carving your path with your friends. You just said you'd be just as happy playing music with your friends.
Yeah.
But how did you assimilate to? What path did you take to get into Nashville?
Well, most of my musical compatriots and friends kind of were already living there or had designs to live there at some point. And I knew that there wasn't any state income tax. And it just seemed like a pretty happening place to try to make a go of it as a professional musician.
But you're nobody when you get there.
Well, I'm super lucky.
Okay, so luck is the byproduct of...
I grew up with this wealth of amazing family friends who are incredible musicians, and about half of them live in Nashville. So the first week I moved to town, I house sat for Tim O'Brien and kind of got my bearings.
Give some shout outs to those peeps.
Yeah, people are
having a
Tim
ball,
O'Brien
man.
And Sam Bush and Jerry Douglas. And
you're obsessed with Jerry Douglas.
Yeah, actually, my AOL screen name when I was, 11, 12 years old was Jerry Doug 3. And Stuart Duncan is my favorite musician on planet Earth. He's another good friend who's there. Noam Pikelny's there. Chris Eldridge. Paul Coert, Dominic Leslie just moved there, Billy Strings. I have a really good community out there, and I have been living in the Bay Area for the last year, but I'm about to move back to Nashville.
You are?
Yeah.
Wow. So, can you talk about how for your generation specifically, how you can create spiritual music on the bandstand? On a consistent level, how to think as one within the group context. You get a chance, you're blessed. It's a very natural thing. You and your dad I mean, it's like water, but how do you raise the collective consciousness of the band in order to, create, to elevate consciousness?
I mean, it's about listening and empathizing with the rest of the people in the configuration.
Empathizing in a nonverbal sense, obviously.
Yeah, just kind of like trying to understand where they're coming from musically and getting on that level. Making your fellow musicians sound better, as opposed to sort of thinking about all the hip shit that you could be playing.
Can you give an example of a band you were in where that took place? Even back in the day in Petaluma or wherever you grew up. Is that Petaluma?
Yeah, so I grew up mostly in Mill Valley, California.
Ah, man, the Cipollina house. I was up on top of that.
No way.
Oh, dude, they still had Quicksilver posters up.
So, yeah.
The parents were such hipsters.
I took piano lessons from Antonia. That's what I did.
Mario's mom.
Yeah.
Please talk about that. I was
Yeah,
in. This
I
is
didn't
this
want
is the
to take piano lessons. My parents, forced me to start taking some formal-ish piano lessons when I was like 5 or 6. But I've been playing a cello that my dad tuned like a bass since I was maybe 4.
So, I guess, but going back to the spiritual quality, I mean, was there an example of a group you could talk about where you showed more empathy maybe before than you'd ever had?
Well, yeah, I've been playing music with a small group of young folks, since we were like 10 or 11. So at this point, we've known each other for a good 15 plus years. And that group of folks includes Dominic Leslie, Alex Hargraves, Nat Smith, Sarah Jarose, Jake Jolliffe, Wes Corbett, Mike Barnett, Eric Robertson, but we're...
That's a big band.
It's a big band, but 4 of us have a band called the Broted, actually.
It's called the Broted.
Yeah, Dominic, Leslie, Alex Hargraves, Nat Smith, and I. And we play heady new acoustic original music and have a great time doing it.
What's the instrumentation?
It's bass, cello, mandolin, and fiddle. And our record's up on wherever that place where you buy people's records is.
Right. Can you talk about your favorite trap drummer to play with? I noticed that you're basically keeping time. Your inner time feels really strong because you don't play with a trap drummer, at least in this setting.
No, I didn't grow up playing with any drummers, really. I grew up listening to some music with great drumming. And actually, the great Hal Blaine spent a lot of time at our house when I was growing up.
Did you get some lessons from Blaine?
I mean, I didn't take any drum lessons or anything, but he would let me. He would just set his kit up, to record for like a week at a time. It seems like because he was in for Songs of Our Fathers, and he might have played some on Not for Kids Only. Even.
Absolutely.
But starting when I was like a toddler and going up through. When I was in middle school, he would come and track, and he would just leave his drum set up and let me fuck around on him if I wanted to.
So I'm saying as a bass player, who do you dig playing traps with? Because or do you not play with trap drummers?
Well, no,
in the studio you do. You go on the road with people.
I get to play with drummers in the studio, and that's a blast. Probably my favorite drummer to get to play with for acoustic music is a guy named Nick Falk, who's an amazing musician who actually, he was in the Monk Institute band for a couple of years in New Orleans, but he kind of has this really, really strong jazz background, but he's a really sensitive musician. He loves old-time music. He's married to a singer-songwriter, and he's just a really...
What gets you off about a drummer? What do you want out of a drummer? I mean, do you want somebody who's going to play like... Not, maybe just not a lot of language, but somebody who's willing to explore all the space? Or do you want somebody who's just going to lock the groove?
Well, I mean, I want somebody who's going to serve the song in the same way that I would want to, It's about creating a groove mostly, but you know, I don't want anybody to be stifled by having to keep to a certain pattern. Or I don't particularly dig it playing with a drummer who wants you to, you know, match your part to his kick pattern perfectly, or any of that type of like unspoken rule type of shit. You know, I think it should be like kind of more natural.
Absolutely. What's the best and the worst things about playing with your dad?
I mean, he's one of my favorite mandolin players and favorite musicians on the planet, so that's a huge plus. He's just got amazing time and tone and taste, and he still plays shit that, you know,
Artist improvement. We're
really
on 5
turns me
minutes.
on and blows me away every
5
night.
minutes. Thank you.
I mean, I guess the worst thing about playing with your dad is it's tough to, you know where that line is and respect it at all times. Like, as far as a boss-employee relationship goes, you know, I've probably crossed over that line like way more times than I ever would with any other employer.
What's the consequence?
Just, you know,
Grief?
grief, and sometimes a statement like, you know, if you weren't my fucking kid, I'd fire your ass, you know, or something.
Dude, hopefully the lights are okay tonight, because he was burning up today on that Facebook Live, man. Samson, what an honor, man. Go have a ball tonight.
We will.
Love always, man.
Yeah, much love. Thank you.
All right. Jake Feinberg Show. See you later.